Hey, this is Piamet, and I'm making a follow-up to my original Astrologian guide. First of all, my, audio output, whatever. My microphone was apparently turned way down, which is why the sound was really hard to hear. Secondly, pretty soon after I made that video, Astrologians got a lot of buffs, and so I'm not going to make as long of a video as I did back then, but I do want to go over the main things. First of all, we have two sects. But no, we have, I like to call them decks because we use cards, but diurnal and nocturnal, and diurnal's basically playing like white mage, nocturnal is like scholar. They buff nocturnal quite a bit so that it is far more viable than it used to be. So I have actually done, expert dungeons and raids and stuff with nocturnal sect, and I'm not just talking, like Alex. I'm talking Alex, like Savage. I would have brought her to Ravana, but I didn't need the weapon. I needed it more on my scholar. So I also raid on my scholar. But my Astrologians, I level 196. And here I'll show her gear. I don't have anything from Alex Savage, for the record. I do have some esoteric gear. So, yeah, and my scholar is 191. But, I enjoy playing both, and I play whichever I find is more viable. Right now, when I heal a dungeon, I just kind of arbitrarily pick one of the two decks. And that's just because I don't want to get rusty at either of them. And they changed how the cards work. Ewer is actually quite good now because of the mana regen. Instead of reducing mana costs, which previously was kind of underwhelming. The TP card now also is buffed, but both of them have been changed to be the spread expanded Royal Road. Basically the best Royal Road that you would want, and so let me pop Cleric Stance there, but see, and there's Ewer. That's not really what I want, but I'll just use spread on it because whatever. So Sinistry was buffed, and I have it as a macro, so you can't see it, but it was buffed to also increase our healing done. And I believe I have heard that, yeah, anytime you heal a party member, it will also heal the target. But that requirement includes the target. So if you're using it on the target, then you also get the bonus heal on the target, basically. So that's pretty awesome. Disable was changed to just reduce the potency of target's actions by 10%. Let's see what else. Oh, I know. Something I was talking about in my previous video, which may not have been audible, I'm not sure, but, where is it? Oh, here. Celestial Opposition. This spell used to have a much longer cooldown. The stun and extension of beneficial effects. Yeah, it had a much longer cooldown, and that was my complaint. And they reduced the cooldown, and it is now 2 minutes. Time dilation is 90 seconds, which is still kind of long. Collective Unconscious got buffed so that it does both effects no matter which deck you're in. You will get both the damage reduction and the regen effect. And the regen effect persists on group members. And if you maintain the Collective Unconscious and they walk in and out, they can refresh the buff. That's one way I've heard of people choosing it, but normally when I use it, I have to move shortly after. And light speed has been turned from crap to amazing. It reduces the MP cost for spells by 25% and cast times by 2.5 seconds, which pretty much makes our heals all instant, while reducing attack magic potency by 25%. And it has a 150-second recast time, which is 2.5 minutes. So basically, this went from being like, here's something you can use, like, when you're gonna spam gravity, to this is actually really crappy for DPS and really, really good for healing. So, and we are healers, so I'm happy about that. I do really like my Astrologian, and I like the changes they've made. It definitely, like, the U-work card effect definitely helps some of our MP issues, and there may be some things I'm forgetting to mention. We can also use spread out of combat, as you saw me do earlier, and that's a big help. But now we can save cards while out of combat, or fish for cards while out of combat, which I know is probably what they wanted to prevent, but, you know, it's better this way. And if your group is willing to wait for you to fish for cards, then, you know, that's fine. I will say it is pretty helpful for raids, but certainly not necessary. Like, my group kills, we haven't killed anything in Savage yet, except for Faust, but, you know, I fish for cards for Faust, and spread, like, Balance or Arrow if I'm desperate around, depending on how my RNG is. And then I also come in on my Scholar with Celine, and we still have very little problem downing Faust, and there really doesn't seem to be much of a difference at all. In fact, I mean, to me it felt safer, but I don't know. I'm not, like, making this video to say, oh, you should play Scholar, because I do know. I still consider myself to main Astrologian. It's just that because of the fairy, Scholar is far more forgiving when it comes to healing. Because the fairy does a lot for you, like if you decide to DPS. And this is one of my big issues with Astrologians. A Scholar who's DPSing, their fairy is still healing. An Astrologian who's DPSing is only doing healing if they have like hots out. And I've had a lot of Astrologians who just want to spam gravity all day, and it doesn't work that way. You have to use it very sparingly and very intelligently, unless you want your tank to hate you or die and then hate you. Yeah, just it takes more intelligence, I think. But you know, like I've discussed before, your main heals are Benefic 2. Central Dignity is an instant heal that will heal for a chunk of a target's health. It's basically our super emergency heal, but it has a fairly short cooldown, so it's worth using often. Like, don't sit on it forever just waiting for the shit to hit the fan, because it may never hit the fan. And it's a good heal if somebody needs, like, you know, a big chunk. Helios is basically our Medica, and of course Aspected Helios, which I have over here, is basically our Medica too. And its effect is based on which deck we're in. They're both worth using, and you know, that's because Helios has a higher, like, cure potency and a lower MP cost slightly. So it's sometimes you might want to weave that in. Of course, like, this is just the base cure potency. So the additional effects of Aspected Helios are relevant. Draw, something you want to be using pretty much on cooldown, unless you are saving a certain card combo for a certain point in a fight. Like, I'm talking like extreme primals or something like that. Like on Extreme Bismarck, when you go onto his back, saving spread balance is really good for that. It really helps the DPS, because there is a DPS check there where you need to get the back in so many pulls. Like, the first one is you need to get it in 1, and then the second one is like 2, I think. I don't know, it's been a while since I've done Extreme Bismarck, but yeah, so I did hold on to cards there once I fished up the right ones with Whirlroad and Spread. Also Dispel, of course, Res, Disable, Sinistry is, don't forget to use it because it buffs your healing. Done. Even if your target isn't, like, you know, in super danger or whatever, it's still a healing boost, which is very much needed. Of course, you know, Time Dilation and Celestial Opposition extend our buffs, which include things like light speed and what is this called? Luminiferous Ether. Such a name. As well as our hots and our cards. Of course, we cannot use Time Dilation on ourselves, but yeah, that's our life. basically, if I can give advice besides what I've already given, it's just, as an astrologian, keep your expected benefic up on your tank as much as possible, especially if you're in diurnal sect. You are supposed to be playing like a white mage. White mages are supposed to have regen up on the tanks like all the time, except for like right before a pull. Then that's not good news for the white mage, because they'll pull aggro, and you will definitely be an aggro magnet if you're in diurnal sect. Like, you'll see it in like Alex 4, all the ads will come for you. But you know, it's whatever. And just, you know, you have to be careful about that. With Nocturnal Sect, it's a bit trickier because the absorb gets eaten. And, obviously, like, consumed, then it's gone. And it's not like a hot that just lasts and lasts. So for that, you do have to use your discretion. Keep in mind that the decks do give benefits. Diurnal is spell speed, and Nocturnal is healing potency. Just slight boosts. So in Nocturnal, you'll probably find yourself using more like direct heals. Like, you'll be using just normal benefic to like kind of keep your mana, like, or your MP very like stable, and then you'll use your aspected benefic, aspected helios when needed. And I honestly feel now that it does feel like I have the strength of a scholar. Like, I mean, obviously not quite, because scholar has some tools up its sleeve that I wish I had on my Astrologian, but I do not. But nonetheless, our absorbs have been buffed to be quite good. And please, 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 do not be one of those healers who spam Stone Skin during combat. It is a waste of time. I mean, if like nobody's taking damage and like maybe a DPS needs a Stone Skin or something, then okay, whatever. But if you're spamming Stone Skin on the tank instead of healing them, you're doing it wrong. And I see, you know, healers of all classes doing this, but it's a really bad habit to get into. So basically, you know, think of yourself when you play as either a white mage or a scholar, and then play accordingly. Except regarding the scholar, you would want to not DPS as much as a scholar is capable of doing. Like I said, you will have unhappy tanks if you plan on spamming gravity, but I think I've said pretty much all I would like to say, and I really appreciate the views on my original Astrologian guide. I'm really sorry that my audio was messed up, and I didn't realize it until after it was uploaded, and I went and watched it and was like, well, I can kind of hear myself, but I got some good feedback. I got some rude people who got blocked, but you know, these things happen. But I very much appreciate those who did support me or found it helpful, and I wanted to make this guide since things have changed. and much for the better. You know, we're a lot more stable on our MP. We have a lot more throughput on both of our diurnal and nocturnal sects are viable, and it's basically great in all departments except for DPSing. I feel like gravity should have an effect on it similar to holy. I don't want it to be holy, so white mages, please don't freak out on me, but gravity has, let's say, 2.75 cast time, which I guess isn't that bad, but it works sort of like holy, except it has no effect. It just does damage. But I see all these scholars who like to spam it, and you know, rightfully so. It looks pretty awesome. But it's really missing something, like, because it's not really viable to use in a mob situation, whereas I've had white mages who use holy during mob situations, and they tend to be more intelligent about when to use it, and holy stuns. So when they use it, it's okay because the mobs get immediately stunned. But I just kind of hope that something is done about gravity. Like, I don't know. One of my friends suggested maybe that it applies heavy, but a scholar can do that by running in and using miasma too. Applying heavy to everything, so I don't know. Maybe like bind effect. I really have no idea. But gravity, I'd love to be able to use it, but I do not DPS on my Astrologian. I tried. Trust me, when I got gravity, I was so excited to get to use it, and then I found out, apparently I'm AFK, I found out that whenever I tried to use gravity, tanks would start to die. I mean, not actually die, but they would get close to dying, and then I'd be like, well, crap, time to go back to healing. So I just kind of gave up on that. In raids, it's easier because there's 2 healers and you can coordinate these things. Plus, damage is a lot more predictable, but I think that's pretty much it for me to say, and I'm sorry I've rambled. It's been a very long night and I'm quite tired, but I appreciate everyone who's read this as well as the original. I hope this guide is more helpful than the original was, but just basically make sure you're using all of your like healing oriented abilities. Don't worry too much about your DPS abilities unless you're like soloing. But yeah, everything you have for healing is a good toolkit. Like, it's very close to competitive with other healers, I think. Some people say Astrologian's now better than Scholar. I'm not sure how I feel about that personally, but I don't really read that kind of stuff. But I do know people are clearing the content with Astrologians, and they're said to be quite good at many healing mechanics. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. And I thank you for the final time for watching, and I wish you a great day and good luck with your astrologians.